the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, one God, Amen. God chosen one, listen closely. Something has shifted in the realm of the Spirit, and it concerns you tonight. Yes, tonight, your hidden role has been activated. The clock struck this hour, not by accident. Heaven pressed go, and your dormant assignment lit up in the spiritual archives. This is not just another night. This is a divine appointment. You felt the stirring, the restless ache, the sudden pull, because your role, hidden for years, has just come online. You are not here by chance. You are not listening by mistake. You are hearing this because something eternal is moving over your life. This is divine alignment, not algorithmic accident. God orchestrated this moment to wake you up. The assignment you were marked for, hidden even from yourself, has been waiting for this precise moment to activate. The time of delay is over. The time of confusion is done. You are being summoned into position. Heaven has known your name long before you knew his voice. The angels assigned to your path have stood in silence, waiting, watching, holding their breath for this moment. Sometime it spoke unto us, and now, at the appointed time, the scroll of your life is being opened, and the seal on your hidden assignment has been broken. You are not just being called, you are being launched. You may feel unprepared, but God never checks credentials. He checks obedience. He doesn't ask for the qualified, he qualifies the called. You, chosen one, have been called into divine service under heaven's command. And from this moment forward, you will no longer move as you once did. The winds around you will shift. The warfare will intensify. But the power behind you is greater than anything against you. Paul reminds us in Ephesians 2:6 that God raised us up with Christ and seated us with him in the heavenly realms. That's where your authority flows from. Not from earth's applause, but from heaven's commissioning. You don't need validation when you've been appointed by the King. And yes, the world will look the same tomorrow, but you will not. Because once your role activates, you no longer operate as a civilian. You're a spiritual agent, a kingdom disruptor, a divine infiltrator. What used to torment you will now fear you. What once intimidated you will now bow to the authority on your life. Your very presence shifts atmospheres. Don't downplay what you carry. Don't dismiss the voice inside you that keeps whispering there's more. That voice is not fantasy. It's not ego. It's the echo of your destiny, trying to break through the static. You've been living below your spiritual inheritance, but tonight everything changes. You have been chosen to carry out something the world has never seen. You've been activated to be a breaker, a builder, a blueprint. The assignment on your life has been preserved through every attack, every tear you cried, collected, every wound recorded, every betrayal permitted. Why? Because the enemy knew something you. There are people who try to curse you, relationships that try to collapse you, systems that try to stop you, not because of who you were, but because of what you carried. Your name echoed in hell's chambers long before you ever prayed your first prayer. And yet, you're still here. Why? Because grace kept you breathing until heaven could release your assignment. Tonight is not symbolic, it's strategic. And you don't need everyone to understand it. What's happening to you is not public, it's prophetic. Your spirit has just been marked for war, for awakening, for breakthrough. This isn't just a motivational moment. This is a military message. You've been enlisted. Angels have been dispatched. Your timeline has been disrupted. The Father is calling forth His chosen ones, and your name was on the list. Let every insecurity bow to this truth. God does not make mistakes. He doesn't assign power without purpose. He doesn't call without preparation. And He doesn't release without reason. You are not just part of the plan, you are essential to it. That thing inside you that has been dormant is about to roar to life. Chosen one, rise, you are no longer hidden. The heavens have spoken. Your assignment is live. Comment 777 if your spirit feels the activation. You've always been watched long before you ever heard the name chosen one. There were eyes locked on you both in heaven and in hell. Your name has been whispered in realms you've never seen. Your existence was never hidden, not from angels, not from demons. You were marked, not the day you were born, but the moment you were conceived. Heaven placed its signature on you, and all of hell noticed. There is no such thing as a low-profile calling. Even if you tried to blend in, you couldn't. You carry something eternal, something magnetic to the supernatural. This is why your life has felt like a target, why you've gone through warfare without provocation, why you were attacked before you ever stood for anything, because the enemy saw it. He always sees potential before it manifests. You didn't ask for this, but you were assigned to it. You were marked in realms you couldn't see, by forces you didn't know, and still something inside you kept surviving. You should have lost your mind. You should have walked away, but you didn't, because your soul remembered what your mind hadn't yet learned. There is more. You were born under surveillance. Even in your most broken states, there was a sacred watch of your soul. Not one breakdown went unnoticed, not one rejection went unrecorded. Heaven has been documenting your story, not as evidence against you, but as proof of your endurance. The throne doesn't forget survivors. It crowns them. The scars you carry, they are the ink heaven used to verify your authenticity. There's a reason darkness kept checking your progress. Every time you tried to heal, some shadow tried to reopen the wound. Every time you got your hope back, something came to steal it. That's not coincidence. That's spiritual reconnaissance. The kingdom of darkness kept circling you, not because of where you were, but because of where you were headed. Your very breath irritates hell's agenda. Some of your earliest memories are stained with battles you didn't understand at the time. You thought they were just childhood pains, random trials, or human cruelty. But spiritually, you were already on the radar. The enemy always strikes first when he senses anointing. He tries to traumatize destiny before it becomes functional. That pain in your past wasn't punishment. It was a preemptive strike. But here's the miracle. You never stopped being watched by heaven. Even when you cursed the sky, even when you questioned your worth, even when you gave up praying, the Father never took His eyes off you. Not once. He knew the warfare wouldn't kill you. It would forge you. The very eyes that saw you broken also see you rising. The very hands that watched you bleed are now ready to equip you for battle. As we read in Psalm 121, I will lift up my eyes to the hills. From where comes my help? My help comes from the Lord who made heaven and earth. That is your reality. You were never truly alone, not in the darkest night, not in the lowest pit. Heaven was documenting your steps, guiding your path, allowing only what would serve your future strength. So you think your delays were detours, but they were divine design. The doors that didn't open were blocked for your protection. The relationships that crumbled were torn down to preserve your mantle. Nothing in your journey was wasted. Every wrong turn taught you something. Every closed door redirected you. Every heartbreak anchored you deeper into discernment. Heaven's eyes on you mean more than protection. They mean accountability. You can no longer pretend you're just one of the crowd. You're not. You've never been. You've always felt the difference. But tonight, that difference has a name. It's not weirdness. It's called being marked, set apart, commissioned. The level of attack over your life is proof of the level of purpose resting on it. Nobody robs empty vaults. Nobody attacks empty houses. The weight of resistance is always equal to the weight of the calling. And you've carried weight for years without understanding why. But now the clarity comes. You are watched because you are dangerous to darkness. When heaven watches, it watches to guide and guard. When hell watches, it watches to sabotage and scare. You've been the subject of both kinds of attention, but now the balance is shifting, because once you know who you are, once your hidden assignment activates, the surveillance no longer intimidates you, because now you understand why it's happening. Don't dismiss the dreams that felt too intense, the moments of pressure that seemed too heavy for your season. That was your hidden role trying to activate. Every time you felt something watching you in the spirit, something probably was, but now your awareness has caught up with your assignment. What was once spiritual static is now becoming divine instruction. You may not have known what you carried, but others did. That's why some people treated you strangely. That's why you never blended in. That's why even those who loved you didn't always understand you. You carried something they couldn't identify, and it made them uncomfortable. But that discomfort was never your fault. It was their spirit recognizing something they couldn't label. You've spent years thinking you were too much, too sensitive, too different. But tonight, that lie breaks. You weren't too much. You were just an early activation. Your spirit was tuned into another frequency before your mind could catch up. And now everything is sinking. This is the hour of unveiling. The gaze of heaven is not just on you, it is within you. You are being seen, not just for who you are, but for who you've always been becoming. You've been watched with purpose, and now you will move with power. You've always known deep down that you were different. You never fit the mold, never walked the path others seemed content with. Even in rooms full of people, you felt like a question no one had the answer to. But what you didn't realize was this: your difference was never a defect, it was your design. The discomfort wasn't rejection, it was redirection. The misfit feeling wasn't punishment, it was proof you were not created to blend in, you were created to break through. That quiet ache in your soul, that wasn't loneliness. It was the calling whispering, there's more. You thought you were lost when, in reality, you were being hidden. Now, the curtain is lifting. God was not keeping you from people, He was keeping you from patterns that would have dulled your edge, cycles that would have buried your gift. He wrapped you in isolation to preserve the oil on your life. You are never being punished, you are being preserved. That's why certain doors didn't open. That's why you were left out of conversations, skipped over for opportunities, forgotten in rooms where you showed up with full heart. But you weren't overlooked, you were hidden on purpose. Because when the right time came, He didn't want you to emerge tainted. He wanted you pure, ready, consecrated. When God sets someone apart, He doesn't always explain why. He just starts the pruning, the separation, the stretching, and it hurts. You cried through seasons where you didn't even know what you were crying about. You just knew something was shifting. Something inside you was too loud to ignore and too sacred to explain. People misunderstood you because spiritual assignments aren't meant to be explained to carnal minds. You don't owe anyone clarity about your calling. You overguard your obedience. And He made it so that your spirit wouldn't let you settle for average, no matter how much your mind tried to negotiate it. That's why the jobs didn't fulfill you. The relationships drained you. The normal life agitated you. Because you weren't born for normal, you were born for holy disruption. You carry the kind of fire that makes lukewarm uncomfortable. You carry truth that exposes pretense and that makes you a threat to every environment that prefers silence over spiritual awakening. This sense of not fitting in has followed you since childhood. You tried to play the part. You tried to smile when you were breaking. But deep down you always knew there's something different about you. You weren't imagining it. You were discerning it. God didn't choose you because you were the strongest. He chose you because you were willing. He chose you because He knew you would survive what others couldn't. He trusted you with the wilderness. He trusted you with the silence. He trusted you with the confusion. And now He's trusting you with the truth. You are stepping into the realization that your difference is your mantle. The loneliness was necessary. The rejection was divine. The delays were disguised deliverance. And the heartbreak that was heaven severing soul ties that could not go where you are going. When you were crying over who left, God was rejoicing over who didn't stay. Because not everyone can survive the weight of your call. Not everyone can handle the light that radiates from you. Some people would have tried to dim it. Others would have exploited it. But now you know. Your tribe will recognize your light. Your people will hear your sound. You are not alone. You are just early. You're ahead of time, ahead of culture, ahead of your own comfort. Because your calling was written in eternal ink, not popular ink. You're not called to reflect the world. You are called to reflect the throne. Paul reminds us in 1 Corinthians 1:27, but God has chosen the foolish things of the world to shame the wise. God has chosen the weak things of the world to shame the strong. That's why your life doesn't make sense to others, because it's not supposed to. It only makes sense in the spirit. Your season of confusion is ending. Your season of clarity is dawning, and your separation wasn't random. It was sacred. Heaven was building something inside you that could not be built in crowds. It had to be built in quiet, in silence, in obscurity. And now that hidden construction is about to become a public commission. You were never disqualified. You were just being developed. Comment, I am chosen, because what set you apart was never a flaw. It was the fingerprint of your divine assignment. There is something you've carried for years that you've tried to forget, suppress, or explain away. A gift, a fire, a divine awareness. You buried it not because it was worthless, but because it was too weighty for the room you were in. You've dimmed your light, silenced your intuition, and second-guessed your knowing, all because others weren't ready for your roar. But your gift never died. It merely went dormant. It curled itself into the deepest place inside you, waiting for the hour your spirit would be strong enough to hold it again. That hour is now. Your gift was always real. Even when they mocked it, even when you couldn't explain it, even when you doubted it, it never left. It stayed with you through every breakdown, through every detour, through every season of spiritual numbness. Because it didn't come from you, it came through you. Heaven placed something in your soul that time could not erode and trauma could not erase. You didn't outgrow your calling. You just outgrew the shell it was hidden in. The world tried to mold you into something acceptable, but the fire inside you wouldn't comply. That fire is the reason you've always felt stretched, uneasy, incomplete, because nothing outside could match the magnitude of what was buried within. When you tried to bury your gift, heaven never agreed with that decision. That's why you felt spiritually restless, because the divine will never allow you to live in false comfort. It will disrupt peace to activate purpose. It will stir the waters of your soul until you answer the call you were born for. You've tried to numb it with logic, hide it behind achievements, bury it under relationships, but the gift kept knocking. Even in your silence, it whispered. Even in your rebellion, it waited. Even in your exhaustion, it stayed. God never revokes what He gives. For His gifts and His call are irrevocable. That means no mistake you've made, no pit you've fallen into, no time you've lost. What's still inside you, what He planted, He intends to harvest. Some of you were told you were too sensitive, but that intensity wasn't emotional chaos, it was spiritual sensitivity. Your discernment wasn't delusion, it was design. You saw through things others accepted. You felt heaviness where others felt nothing. That wasn't coincidence, that was calling. The reason you had to hide your gift was because people around you were too small-minded to receive it. They tried to put natural explanations on supernatural DNA. And you believed them for a while, until now, until the hour came when your soul could no longer pretend. The world trains you to hide what makes you powerful, to normalize your fire, to edit your anointing. But heaven is retraining you now to stand in it, to speak with it, to move by it. You're stepping back into alignment with your divine wiring. Your gift is your tool, your compass, your weapon. You don't need to apologize for it. You need to wield it. The kingdom needs what you carry. The gift you thought was disqualified is now your divine leverage. It will unlock doors, expose darkness, and deliver others. Some of you have been dreaming more lately, seeing visions, sensing things others miss. That's your gift resurfacing. It's the breath of heaven waking up the part of you that was never dead, just dormant. And now it demands your attention. You're not getting weirder, you're getting realer, more aligned, more accurate, more alive. Because to reject your gift is to reject your role. And heaven won't let you sabotage yourself anymore, especially when so much is attached to your obedience. You will no longer apologize for your wisdom. You will no longer dull your discernment to protect someone's comfort. You will no longer question your sight because others can't see. The days of second guessing your knowing are over. You've been reactivated. And because you've grew up to do what? You live. It is that spiritual gift you carry is not just for you. It's an answer for someone else's bondage, a weapon for someone else's breakthrough. Your voice may be the very sound someone else needs to hear to wake up from their sleep. Your light may be the only map they find in the dark. This isn't about hype, it's about holy alignment. You are not too late, you are right on time. The same gift you buried in fear will now make room for you in purpose. It's time to stop explaining your flame to those who were born in the cold. It's time to move like you know you're chosen. You are stepping into the sacred, and your gift is no longer optional, it is necessary. The world doesn't need more conformity, it needs the untamed power you carry. And you're a party. There's something you need to understand about your story, chosen one. The darkness knew before you did. It always does. Hell does not wait for your awareness. It moves the moment your name is whispered in heaven. Before you ever spoke a word in prayer, before you even understood spiritual things, darkness had already pulled your file. You were detected, not because of your current power, but because of your potential. The enemy saw the oil before you knew you were anointed. This is why your life was under attack from the beginning. The battles that seemed unfair, they weren't random. They were preemptive. Darkness always moves early when greatness is hidden. It wants to strike you in seed form so you never reach full bloom. But look at you. You're still here. That heaviness you felt as a child, the confusion, the loneliness, it wasn't just emotion, it was spiritual interference. It wasn't, they tried to suppress your voice before it gained strength. They tried to break your heart before you learned to guard it. They tried to drain your joy before you found your purpose. But they failed. Every trap set against you became training. You were never an easy target, you were a strategic one. And the attacks didn't stop with childhood. The moment you got closer to truth, the warfare intensified. Every time you got clarity, confusion showed up. Every time you stood up, betrayal followed. Every time you took a step forward, something tried to pull you back. But that wasn't failure, it was confirmation. You were rattling the wrong realm. They knew the spirits assigned to monitor your bloodline, the generational cycles that kept others bound. They knew you were the exception, that if you ever woke up fully, the whole system would shatter. That if you ever woke up fully, the whole system would shatter. So they came early. They whispered lies, stirred rejection, manufactured chaos. Not to destroy you, but to disarm you. You've walked through silent battles, emotional storms, spiritual dry seasons, because something holy inside you was being hunted. But every hit you took only confirmed this truth. Your role in this earth is not casual, it's critical. You are not just fighting for your future, you're standing between heaven and a broken lineage. And you are the breaker. You've carried more than others, not because you're cursed, but because you're called. The load has been heavier, the nights longer, the confusion deeper. Because what rests on your life terrifies darkness. You are not the one to be pitied. You are the one to be watched. You are a living disruption to demonic blueprints. That's why relationships felt volatile. Why your atmosphere often shifted when you entered the room. Why some people just didn't like you for no reason. It wasn't personal, it was spiritual. Your very presence disrupts comfort zones and agitates the spirit of complacency. You don't fit in because you're not supposed to blend in. It was declared in Luke 10:19, "Behold, I give you authority to trample on snakes and scorpions and to overcome all the power of the enemy." This is the truth darkness tried to keep from you. That you just survive warfare. You're designed to dominate in it. Your authority is not coming, it's already been given. But it activates when you agree with it. The moment you stop asking for permission and start walking in position, everything changes. You become a terror to the territories you were once afraid of. You become a living contradiction to every generational curse you were supposed to repeat. And now your awakening is happening. That's why the warfare has flared up again. That's why distractions increased. Because your hidden role has turned into visible movement. Your silence has become sound. Your questions have become commands. And heaven is backing you with force. This is the hour to rise, not in fear, but in focus. The enemy can no longer hold what was never his. Your mind, your voice, your influence, your gift. All of it is being reclaimed. You are stepping back into territories you once tiptoed through, and this time you walk with fire in your feet and steel in your spine. So yes, the darkness knew first, but now you know. And when the chosen one knows who they are, everything changes. Your words gain weight, your prayers gain power, your presence gains purpose. You don't just live, you legislate. You don't just walk, you war. You don't just influence, you ignite. Chosen one, you were never weak. You were always watched. And now that your awareness has caught up with your anointing, the tables are turning. You are about to do what your bloodline has never seen. You are about to build what others only dream. You are about to silence every lie that ever told you to dim your light. This message is for the warriors who've been worn out, for the gifted who've been guilted, for the prophets who've been silenced. It's time to reclaim your role. And if this word pierces your spirit, share it. Let others awaken. There are more chosen ones hiding in plain sight, waiting for their confirmation. If this resonated with you, like this message. Subscribe for more divine releases and consider supporting the mission. We're building a movement, not a moment. Every action you take fuels the fire for others to find theirs. There is a moment when everything changes, not outwardly, but internally. When something shifts so deeply within your spirit that you cannot go back to who you were, even if you tried. That moment is now. Tonight is not just another night. It is the hour of divine alarm. You feel it, don't you? The unrest, the stirring, the feeling like something eternal is breathing down your neck. That's not anxiety, that's awakening. That's your spirit answering a call from heaven that was sent out long before your body was ever born. Heaven has sounded the alarm over your life. Something eternal has been activated in the invisible realm. And you, chosen one, are in the center of it. The divine alert has gone out and it's calling every marked soul to attention. You are not just being called, you are being summoned. This is not a suggestion. It's not a soft nudge. It is an emergency activation. Your spirit was asleep because it had to be, but now it must awaken. The timeline you were born for is here. The role you were hiding from has been placed on your shoulders, and the call is loud. You are feeling the pull, not just in your emotions, but in your patterns. What used to satisfy you suddenly feels shallow. What you once tolerated now feels toxic. You can't sit in the same cycles anymore. That's because you're not the same. Something divine has shifted within you. You are no longer compatible with complacency. Choose this. Hear this clearly. Delay is now rebellion. You cannot wait any longer. Every second of hesitation pulls you further from alignment. This is not about fear, it's about urgency. When heaven calls, delay becomes disobedience. You are not just being invited, you are being warned. When God sounds the alarm, it's not for curiosity, it's for collision. Heaven is crashing into your timeline. This is a divine interruption, a spiritual collision between what was and what must now be. And you are the bridge. You've cried out for purpose, begged for meaning, asked God for clarity, and now that it's here, it looks like discomfort, it looks like loss, it looks like an alarm that won't stop ringing, because what you ask for requires who you really are, not who you've been pretending to be. Some of you are trying to go back to sleep, trying to convince yourself this is just another moment, but you know it's not. You can feel the trembling in your spirit. You know something is happening that your mind hasn't even caught up to yet. This is not coincidence. This is divine intervention. God has pressed pause on everything around you just to get this message to you. You are not watching this by chance. The heavens are tracking your response. Your yes will echo through generations, but your no will cost more than you can afford. Tonight, the alarm is sounding not just around you, but in you. You feel the old patterns breaking, the old voices losing volume, the old chains cracking open. That's not coincidence. That's God waking you up, calling you higher. You cannot stay where you've been, mentally, spiritually, emotionally. What served you before will now suffocate you. The places you once called safe will become spiritually silent, because heaven will not feed what it did not assign you. You are feeling the alarm because the shift is personal. No one else will hear what you hear. No one else will feel what you feel. That's because your call is custom. Your role is specific. And heaven doesn't send alarms to the general public. It sends them to the chosen. The time for comfort is over. You cannot ask for glory and refuse the groaning. You cannot pray for power and resist the process. Heaven is calling you to wake up, not gently, but with fire. You are being summoned into the war room, and your silence will be louder than your excuses. As we read in Joel 2:1, blow the trumpet in Zion, sound the alarm on my holy hill. Let all who live in the land tremble, for the day of the Lord is coming. This is that trumpet, this is that tremble, and you are the one it's for. You've been feeling the signs, strange warfare, intensive dreams, a sudden distaste for things you once loved. All of it is the alarm your assignment is activating, and heaven is watching to see if you'll move. This is your wake-up call. It is not emotional hype, it is an eternal invitation. Comment 999 in our YouTube platform if you feel the alarm in your soul. Every hidden warrior goes through a season of shadow, a time when nothing makes sense, and yet everything is being constructed in silence. You've been there. You've walked through the dark halls of unanswered prayers. You've waited in rooms where heaven seemed silent and endured a silence so loud it made your bones ache. But none of it was in vain. You were being trained in shadows. God never launches public power without private preparation. You weren't being ignored. You were being initiated. The pain was not punishment, it was process. The wilderness you wandered wasn't wasted, it was the very forge that shaped your authority. While others were building platforms, you were building altars. While they were posting highlights, you were fighting battles no one knew about. You cried in places no one saw, broke down behind doors no one opened, and still showed up when no one clapped. That is how spiritual weapons are formed. You didn't just survive the wilderness, you were sharpened by it. The loneliness taught you how to hear God. The silence taught you how to trust Him. The disappointment trained you to walk by faith, not by sight. And now everything in your history is about to make sense. You've been in a spiritual boot camp. Every betrayal taught you boundaries. Every delay taught you discernment. Every closed door taught you direction. The very things you thought disqualified you have become the evidence of your equipping. People saw your silence as weakness, but in the Spirit, silence is strategy. God hides what He's healing. He conceals what He's crafting. He covered you, not because you were broken, but because you were becoming too powerful to be exposed prematurely. Even your enemies were used in the training. Every person who rejected you unknowingly helped prepare your spirit. God used them to chisel your character, to toughen your resolve, to humble your ego. You didn't even realize you were in training, because heaven never sent a syllabus. Just storm. The things that made no sense back then are now forming your sword. You know how to endure. You know how to move in silence. You know how to pray when it's dry. You know how to discern who's real and who's sent. And that knowledge, costly as it was, is priceless now. You didn't take a shortcut. You took the sacred path. And sacred paths are slow, deep, and hidden. The world rewards speed. Heaven rewards submission. And you, chosen one, submitted even when you didn't understand. There were nights you were sure you missed it, times you thought maybe you heard wrong, moments where doubt choked your confidence. But through all of it, something deeper was forming, a knowing, a fire, a resolve. It says, even if no one sees me, I still know who I am. This is why you don't flinch like you used to, why your reactions have changed, why your eyes carry weight. It's not because life made you hard. It's because the Spirit made you wise. You've been through enough to recognize what's real, and that makes you dangerous to darkness. Jesus Himself spent 30 years in obscurity for a 3-year ministry. He learned in silence, was raised in shadows, and when the time came, He moved with power. That same pattern has been yours. Hidden first, revealed later. Trained where no one could see. As we read in Isaiah 49:2, He made my mouth like a sharpened sword. In the shadow of His hand, He hid me. He made me into a polished arrow and concealed me in His quiver. That's what your life has been, a polishing, a sharpening, a concealment. Not rejection, but protection. You are not stepping out to someone new. You're stepping out to someone refined, proven, in fire. You didn't get here by pretending. You endured things that would have broken others. And now that strength is visible. This next season will not be defined by striving, but by standing. You will not need to explain yourself. Your fruit will speak. Your presence will testify. Your voice will shake things, not because you're loud, but because you're loaded. You're not just carrying knowledge, you're carrying weight. The kind of weight that doesn't need applause to move. The kind of weight that shifts spiritual climates when you walk in. Because the one who's been trained in shadows doesn't need stage lights. They bring light with them. You are ready, not because you feel ready, but because God says you are. And He wouldn't call you if He hadn't equipped you. Your wilderness was the evidence. Your endurance was the sign. You passed tests no one knew you were taking, and heaven saw it all. Now the covering is being lifted. The hidden one is becoming visible. And when they ask, where did you come from? You'll smile, because they'll never know the cost of what you carry, but heaven knows. And now it's time. There are moments in your life where the spiritual realm leans in closer, where the eyes of heaven are no longer watching from a distance, but focusing in with full intensity on your next decision. You are in one of those moments now. Divine eyes have fallen on you, not in judgment, not in wrath, but in activation. The same way a commander looks over their soldier before sending them into a battle, that's how heaven is looking at you right now. You've been in waiting, wondering when it would be your time. Not for applause, not for fame, but for purpose. And now, the gaze of God has settled over your life like a mantle. You can feel it, can't you? That sacred tension, that divine pressure. It's not just stress, it's spotlight. You are not being watched for entertainment, you are being watched for movement. What you do next carries generational weight. The whisper that keeps repeating in your spirit, now is the time, is not your imagination. It's your assignment rising to the surface. There's a reason you felt unusually sensitive in this season. Emotions close to the edge, discernment more alert, sleep less restful. It's because your soul knows the eyes of heaven are no longer distant, they are near. The host of heaven is leaning over the edge of eternity, waiting for your response. This is what it feels like when you're on the edge of revelation. When everything in the natural looks unchanged, but everything in the spirit trembles with expectation. You are not just about to move, you are about to be moved. You are under divine inspection, not for condemnation, but for confirmation. God has searched your heart and found something rare, not perfection, but hunger, not performance, but surrender. And that is all He needs. When divine eyes fall on you, it means an invitation is being extended. A moment is being offered, not to all, just to you. Because what you carry is specific, sacred, strategically designed for this time. David was in the field when the eyes of God found him. Overlooked by men, undervalued by family, but divinely chosen. And in one moment, everything changed. Not because he announced himself, but because God announced him. Samuel didn't come looking for a king randomly. He came because heaven had already seen David. That's what's happening now. You are being seen by the divine. And what follows next will not be determined by your resume, but by your readiness. You've asked God for clarity. This is it. You've begged for confirmation. You're living in it. The pressure you feel is not punishment, it's presence. And presence always precedes purpose. Being able to receive Him. He can grow third as you have desired. Eyes just rise around. The eyes of God are not like the eyes of man. Where man sees image, God sees essence. Where man sees flaws, God sees fire. Where man sees mistakes, God sees your molding. In Psalm 34:15 it says, the eyes of the Lord are on the righteous, and his ears are attentive to their cry. You are not random, you are recognized. And that recognition is not passive, it's prophetic. There is strength coming to your steps, because heaven doesn't just inspect, it empowers. When divine eyes fall on you, they fall with fire. The kind that consumes excuses and ignites assignments. You will feel it in your posture, in your speech, in your decision. Something is changing and you know it. It won't look dramatic to others, but your inner world is roaring. Your discernment is heightened. Your appetite is changing. The things that used to satisfy you now feel like sand. That's the evidence you're under divine gaze. Because heaven is reconfiguring you to match your mantle. You don't need to chase visibility. You need to steward vision. Visibility is what man gives. Vision is what God reveals. And when you carry vision correctly, heaven will illuminate your steps, even in darkness. You feared the spotlight because of past shame, past failure, past fears. But God does not light up what he plans to expose, he lights up what he plans to reveal. And you, chosen one, are not being exposed, you are being revealed. This is why you've been hidden. This is why you've been pruned. This is why the silence lasted so long, because what God is about to do through you requires full attention from the throne. And now you have it, so walk carefully. Not in fear, but in reverence. Guard your yes, protect your alignment. Don't let small things distract you in this hour of divine focus. The gaze of heaven is upon you.